Thank you, Nina Enrique. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for NET25 World News on tonight's headlines. A powerful display of alliance and military readiness unfolds as the annual Balikatan exercises between Filipino and American troops have officially begun.
We also possess credible combat power that backs up that commitment. The commitment and our promise to maintain a free and open Indo-Pacific.
This year, we will focus on a comprehensive approach that encompasses full battle testing.
And the news starts now. A powerful display of alliance and military readiness unfolds as the annual Balikatan exercises between Filipino and American troops have officially begun. More than 14,000 soldiers from both nations are participating in what's being described as a crucial full battle test amidst growing concerns over regional security, particularly in the South China Sea. Take a look. These extensive drills, which kicked off today, will continue for 3 weeks until May 9th. It will showcase a range of advanced weaponry from the U.S., including the Nemesis anti-ship missile system and HIMARS rocket launchers. Our own armed forces will also be testing their modern missile capabilities in live-fire exercises alongside their American counterparts. Lieutenant General James Glynn, the exercise director for the U.S. side, emphasized the comprehensive nature of this year's Balikatan.
And BK-25 is set to introduce new capabilities that have been developed over the course of many, many years and spoken of already, frankly, here in the media. Things like the Navy and Marine Expeditionary Ship Interdiction System. Things like the Marine Air Defense Integrated System, MADIS, and the Army's medium-range capability, the Typhoon missile. All here to bring together our capabilities to demonstrate and reassure the region that while we remain committed to peace, we also possess credible combat power that backs up that commitment. The commitment and our promise to maintain a free and open Indo-Pacific.
Our operations span complex joint endeavors, including missile defense, counter-landing live fires, and maritime strike capabilities, alongside humanitarian efforts and infrastructure projects that directly benefit our local communities. These initiatives are not solely about demonstrating power. They epitomize partnership in action, dedicated to safeguarding people, preserving peace, and preparing for future challenges.
For the Philippines, Major General Francisco Lorenzo, the exercise director, clarified that while the exercises are not directed at any specific nation, they serve as a vital deterrent against potential conflict.
This year, we will focus on a comprehensive approach that encompasses full battle testing, the continued operationalization of the archipelagic defense concept, and the refinement of our territorial defense strategies. Through this exercise, we reinforce our readiness to address contemporary security challenges and strengthen our ability to respond to any threats, ensuring that our defense capabilities are adaptable and resilient.
This year's Balikatan involves approximately 9,000 U.S. soldiers and 5,000 Filipino troops. Adding an international dimension, small contingents from Australia, Japan, Britain, France, and Canada are also participating, with an additional 16 countries signed on as observers. These exercises come at a time of heightened tensions in the region, largely stemming from China's increasing assertiveness in the South China Sea and its actions around Taiwan, a neighbor of the Philippines. Relations between Manila and Beijing have become particularly strained over the past 2 years due to confrontations between their coast guards in the South China Sea, a vast waterway that China claims almost in its entirety. The Israeli military's investigation into the killing of 15 emergency workers in Gaza last month has resulted in the dismissal of a field commander for providing a false report and the reprimand of a commanding officer. While acknowledging professional failures and violations of orders in the March 23 incidents near Rafah, the military maintains there was no cover-up.
The Israeli military on Sunday acknowledged professional failures and violations of orders in its review of last month's killing of 15 emergency workers and 3 separate shootings in the same location in Gaza. However, it said there was no attempt to conceal the incident, despite dismissing a field commander for providing an inaccurate report. The military is also reprimanding a commanding officer who had overall responsibility for what occurred, and said its advocate general was conducting its own investigation and could pursue criminal charges. The paramedics and emergency responders were shot dead on March 23rd near the southern city of Rafah. United Nations officials and the Palestinian Red Crescent found the bodies buried in a shallow grave a week later. This video, recovered from the mobile phone of one of the dead men, showed uniformed emergency responders and clearly marked ambulances and fire trucks with their lights on being fired on by soldiers. It was published by the Palestinian Red Crescent. The military said it was partly an operational misunderstanding by the troops, who believed they faced a tangible threat from enemy forces and fired on what they initially determined as a Hamas vehicle, but was in fact an ambulance. The military said Hamas has used ambulances to carry out operations, though its soldiers are told to distinguish between genuine emergency vehicles and those used by Hamas. A paramedic on the scene, who was detained by the military and later released, has said soldiers opened fire on clearly marked emergency response vehicles. The Palestinian Red Crescent had called for an independent international investigation prior to the release of this report.
The father of U.S.-Israeli hostage Idan Alexander says he believes his son is still alive, despite Hamas claiming his fate is unknown after the guard holding him was killed. Speaking to Reuters after Hamas' announcement, Adi Alexander said the group's statement was unverified by the IDF and expressed hope for his son's return.
Second one already, I can't really comment on that, on Hamas's tweets. It's unverified by the IDF, so I really cannot comment on that. I'm pretty sure he's there, just waiting patiently to get out. But it seems like the negotiations are stalled and everything is stuck. We kind of back to a year ago, so it's really concerning.
When asked what he wants from the U.S. in light of Hamas's statement, this is what he said.
So I think we should engage back with them directly and see what can be done in regards of my son for American dead hostages and everybody else. Maybe we should negotiate on everybody's behalf. When I say we as an American. Stay committed to the second phase. It's still not clear why the second phase of the deal wasn't executed properly, why the IDF went back to fighting. It was laid down, first phase, second phase, third phase. So it's really not clear who is in violation of the second phase right now.
The 21-year-old New Jersey native was serving in the Israeli army when he was captured during the October 7, 2023 attacks. 59 hostages remain in Gaza, with fewer than half believed to be alive. On Saturday, Hamas released a new video of Israeli hostage Elkanah Bobat, showing him more gaunt and upset during a phone call with his family. Bobat's family approved the video's release. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the nation, reaffirming his commitment to continue the military campaign against Hamas.
I have ordered the IDF to respond firmly and further increase the pressure on Hamas. We are in the war of rebirth, the war on 7 fronts. This war has very heavy prices, because any such loss is a world in and of itself. But we, as people who desire life, have no choice but to continue fighting for our very existence until victory. We are at a crucial stage of the campaign. And at this stage, patience and determination are required to win. If we surrender to Hamas's dictates now, all the tremendous achievements we have achieved thanks to our fighters, thanks to our fallen, thanks to our wounded heroes, all these achievements will simply go down the drain.
Egyptian mediators continue efforts to restore a ceasefire, which Israel abandoned last month after seeking to extend a temporary truce that had resulted in the release of 38 hostages. President Donald Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, said in March that securing Alexander's release was a top priority, and his case was central to recent talks between Hamas and U.S. negotiators. Meanwhile, Russia and Ukraine accused each other of thousands of attacks that violated the one-day ceasefire declared by President Vladimir Putin, with the Kremlin saying there was no order to extend the pause in frontline fighting. Take a look.
As Ukrainians and Russians separately attended services in their home countries, their governments accused each other on Sunday of carrying out hundreds of attacks despite a one-day truce declared by Russia's President Vladimir Putin. Outside the St. Michael's Cathedral in Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, some residents spoke of air raid sirens going off right after Putin announced the ceasefire. This woman described missiles and drones flying overhead afterwards, saying they caused explosions in the country's south. What kind of ceasefire is that, she said. He lied, as he always does. Putin on Saturday evening unilaterally ordered his forces to stop all military activity along the front line until the end of Sunday, Moscow time.
I order a stop to all military activities for this period.
Приказываю на этот период остановить все боевые действия.
We assume that the Ukrainian side will follow our example. However, our troops should be ready to repel possible ceasefire violations and provocations by the enemy, any aggressive actions.
Любых его агрессивных действий.
We know that the Kyiv regime, as you have reported to me, violated agreements regarding ban on energy strikes more than 100 times. This is why I ask you to be extremely attentive and vigilant, to be ready for an immediate response in full.
Быть готовыми к немедленному ответу в полном объеме.
But on Sunday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia was only pretending to observe ceasefire, saying on social media that Moscow had in fact continued hundreds of artillery attacks on Saturday night, with more assaults on Sunday. In an early afternoon post, Zelensky said, quote, "Either Putin does not have full control over his army, or the situation proves that in Russia they have no intention of making a genuine move toward ending the war and are only interested in favorable PR coverage." Russia's defense ministry in turn accused Ukraine of breaking the truce more than 1,000 times with shots fired and drone strikes. It said the attacks damaged infrastructure and caused some civilian deaths. Reuters was unable to immediately verify the battle reports from either side. The apparent failure to observe even a ceasefire shows just how hard it will be for US President Donald Trump to achieve his aim of clinching a lasting deal to end the war that Russia began 3 years ago.
Russia is known to bail on its proposals, so with the proposals of the Kremlin side, should always be taken with a grain of salt, and it's always easy to make those unilateral proposals when you're on the offensive, because it's Russia that's pushing forward, it's Russia that's attacking civilians in a Ukrainian city, and it's Russia, the ball is Russia's court to stop doing it.
The US will abandon efforts to broker a peace deal unless there are clear signs of progress soon, officials said on Friday.
What this is all about is trying to keep Trump in the game. He thinks that he can stand to gain a lot more, not vis-a-vis Ukraine, but regarding some of the restrictions that the U.S. has put on, sanctions, etc. And, also in trying to entice Trump with a big trade deal or access to minerals. So I really think he wants to keep this Trump mediated talks going on. I don't think that the Trump administration really wants to give up on these, precisely because it would be portrayed as as an abject failure, from solving it in 24 hours to not being able to solve it at all. So that's why I think Putin responded the way he did. I think that he may have realized that maybe he's pushed a little too hard on Trump in terms of ignoring the ceasefire proposal.
Thousands of protesters rallied in Washington and other cities across the U.S. on Saturday. Now, demonstrators voiced their opposition to President Trump's policies on deportations, government firings, and the wars in Gaza and Ukraine. Thomas I. Likeness for more.
This was the scene in the U.S. Capitol as demonstrators marched toward the White House. Protesters carried banners that read, "Workers should have the power," "No kingship," "Stop arming Israel," and "Due process." This protester would only identify himself as John, and he had this warning for Americans.
Due process. That's the first thing they come for, is to take away our due process. And if you folks think here today that you're safe, they're just coming for the weak, the powerless, the students, the immigrants. They're not. They're coming for anybody who stands up against them.
That sentiment could be heard in similar protests across the country. In New York City, protester Julie Brickman says people are speaking out for good reason.
And I am here to be part of that uprising and to protest all the, especially the deportations, the grabbing of people who are here legally and legitimately and throwing them into jail for no due process.
Clamping down on people's freedoms prompted Eileen Conrad of Chicago to take part in a rally in the Windy City.
They've outlawed the use of certain words and phrases. They're arresting people for voicing their opinions and their thoughts. It's got to stop. That's our country's premise, freedom of speech.
Another target of the protesters is the president's hatchet man, Elon Musk.
We've got this oligarch from South Africa stripping all of our society's elements that are for the people and trying to aggrandize it for a minority of powerful and rich in a rigged system that benefits them and not us.
We say, we say.
That was the chant of demonstrators rallying outside Los Angeles City Hall. Protester Emmy Lockwood sums it up.
The people of Los Angeles are in consistent fight and opposition against the Trump and the billionaire agenda that wants to gut all of our social services, all of everything that makes our society work for working class people. That's what they want to attack.
People in the crowds are angry. They feel the government is tone deaf and not representing them. They don't like what they see is happening in Washington. They want change. Demonstrators like Matt Kinsey say it's time for people to get off the couch and become more involved if they want to shift the power back to the people.
I just see so much apathy in this country. We're so incentivized to just be lazy and to kind of sit back and not pretend like it's all of our problem.
Trump's administration is not even 100 days old, and discontent is growing by the week. Less than half of those polled, only 44%, give him a positive approval rating. 53% currently disapprove of the job Trump is doing. It seems many Americans are having buyer's regret about their choice in last November's election. Thomas I. Likeness, NET25 World News.
Washington is ramping up its defense like never before, not just on land, sea, and air, but now in space. President Trump's bold new plan, called the Golden Dome, aims to build a missile defense shield that orbits the Earth, ready to spot and stop incoming threats before they reach U.S. soil. Take a look. Here's how it works. First, up to 1,000 satellites will be launched into orbit, scanning for any missile launches heading its way. Then a second fleet of 200 armed satellites equipped with missiles or lasers would swoop in to take those threats off the board before they reach Earth. Leading the charge on the tracking layer is SpaceX, Elon Musk's space venture. teaming up with data analytics from Palantir and defense startup Anduril. And their focus? Building the custody satellites that sense, track, and calculate potential threats to U.S. soil.
As Commander-in-Chief, my focus is on building the most powerful military of the future. As a first step, I'm asking Congress to fund a state-of-the-art Golden Dome missile defense shield to protect our homeland, all made in the USA. And Ronald Reagan wanted to do it long ago, but the technology just wasn't there, not even close. But now we have the technology. It's incredible, actually. And other places, they have it. Israel has it. Other places have it. And the United States should have it too, right, Tim, right? They should have it too. So I want to thank you. But it's a very, very important. This is a very dangerous world. We should have it. We want to be protected, and we're going to protect our citizens like never before.
But here's where it gets controversial. Instead of selling the system outright, SpaceX has pitched a subscription model. Rent the network but never own it. Pentagon insiders warned that what starts as a shortcut could lock the government into rising private fees and long-term dependence. Interest in the Golden Dome is sky high. Over 180 companies have thrown their hats in the ring, from established defense giants to nimble tech startups. The Pentagon is under pressure to deliver early capabilities by 2026, while a complete global shield may not be in place until 2030. And politics are orbiting alongside the satellites. Elon Musk now holds a special advisory role in government as both a lead contractor and an appointed advisor, prompting questions in Congress about potential conflicts of interest and whether Silicon Valley moguls should shape America's defenses. Meanwhile, global reactions have been mixed. Russia has publicly condemned the plan, accusing the U.S. of militarizing space and jeopardizing strategic stability. So as the Golden Dome takes shape above us, the big questions remain. Will this ambitious shield deliver the protection America needs, or will challenges on the ground and in the halls of power keep it grounded? South Korea has found increased attempts to disguise foreign products as Korean exports, primarily from China, to avoid U.S. President Trump's sweeping tariffs. The Korea Customs Service, or KCS, said it has found 29.5 billion won, or $20.81 million worth of violations related to country of origin from the first quarter, with U.S.-bound shipments accounting for 97% of the total after a special probe last month. Now that compared to a total of 34.8 billion won worth of violations for all of 2024, among which U.S.-bound shipments accounted for 62%. Now, Trump, who took office in January, has imposed significant tariffs on various products and countries, including those on China that began to rise from February.
We plan to strengthen and enforce preventive measures against potential cases where countries with higher tariffs than South Korea may have sufficient incentive to reroute shipments through Korea. As South Korea is geographically close to China, we believe there are many cases that goods from China go through South Korea for disguised export attempts. In addition, Southeast Asian countries may also seek to route shipments through South Korea, and we see a growing risk of such cases occurring in those regions as well.
At a news conference today, the KCS showed mattresses and cathode materials for lithium batteries from China as some of the illegally disguised items. The KCS has launched a special task force to prevent attempts to illegally export such goods and plans to come up with more specific response measures to protect domestic companies. Meanwhile, the violations discovered will be referred to prosecutors. Meanwhile, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is facing renewed scrutiny after reports surfaced that he shared war plans in a private chat, this time including his wife, brother, and personal lawyer. The news reported by Reuters has triggered fresh calls for his resignation. Take a look.
U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth shared war plans in a second Signal chat that included his wife, brother, and personal lawyer. That's according to a source familiar with the matter who spoke to Reuters on Sunday on condition of anonymity. In the second chat, Hegseth shared details of a March attack on Yemen's Houthi rebel group, including the schedule of the airstrikes. Similar to those revealed last month by The Atlantic, the magazine's editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg was included in a separate chat on the Signal app by mistake. The embarrassing incident involved all of President Donald Trump's most senior national security officials. The source said the second chat included about a dozen people and was created during Hegseth's confirmation process to discuss administrative issues. Hegseth's wife, Jennifer, a former Fox News producer, has attended sensitive meetings, according to images the Pentagon has publicly posted. His brother is a Department of Homeland Security liaison to the Pentagon. The revelations come at a particularly delicate moment for Hegseth, with senior officials ousted from the Pentagon last week as part of an internal leak investigation. One of Hegseth's leading advisors, Dan Caldwell, was escorted from the Pentagon after being identified during an investigation into leaks at the Department of Defense. 2 less senior officials were fired on Friday. The latest news has renewed calls by Democratic lawmakers for Hegseth to step down. Senator Tammy Duckworth said that he, quote, must resign in disgrace, while Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said on X that Hegseth, quote, must be fired. A Pentagon spokesperson, without evidence, said that the media was, quote, enthusiastically taking the grievances of disgruntled former employees as the sole sources for their article. Meanwhile, a White House spokesperson said that, quote, recently fired leakers are continuing to misrepresent the truth.
And the news continues here on NET25. We'll be right back. In a truly unique spectacle out of Beijing, China, humanoid robots took to the pavement alongside human athletes for the very first time in a half marathon this past Saturday. Take a look. However, the groundbreaking event wasn't without its stumbles, literally. Reports indicate that the robotic runners were accompanied by human trainers who at times had to physically assist the machines during the 21-kilometer race. Adding to the challenges, one robot took a tumble right at the starting line, while another veered off course and crashed into a railing shortly after beginning, even causing its human operator to fall. Despite these early mishaps, one robot named Chang'an Ultra managed to complete the half marathon in a respectable 2 hours and 40 minutes. While an impressive feat for a machine, it still has a significant way to go before matching human speed, with the men's race winner clocking in at just over an hour. The unusual race drew considerable attention, with crowds of spectators, including AI professors, eager to witness the novel competition.
There is a kind of sportsmanship, whether it's humans or robots, they're all exercising. It feels like I'm watching the development of machines, the development of AI.
While humanoid robots have made appearances at marathons in China previously, this marked the first time they directly competed against human runners. The robots from various Chinese manufacturers showcased a range of designs and sizes. Beijing officials framed the event less as a traditional foot race and more as a technological demonstration, akin to a race car competition, emphasizing the crucial role of engineering and navigation teams. China is hoping that investments in cutting-edge industries like robotics can drive new economic growth. However, some analysts are questioning whether robot participation in marathons is a reliable measure of their true industrial potential. And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on NET25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you all for joining us. Good night.